Hey guys, Birds on the Bat back here. So today I've got a vintage PSA sub that I'm going to be sending off soon that I'll show you in a second here. This sub is only 20 cards, so the bare minimum to get the vintage bulk rate. Um, it was going to be more initially, but there was the recent PSA quarterly specials went up, and one of them is 60s baseball. So I took out all the 60s baseball cards because I can get them at a reduced price right now. So without further ado, start off here with the 1959 Topps Richie Ashburn, Hall of Famer for the Phillies, also played for the Cubs and Mets. You can see here this is a really sharp card, definitely off center left to right, but it's unbelievably sharp. A little bit of discoloration right there, but really clean card. I'm expecting a 7 to 8 for this card. That is if it's not altered in any way. I buy my cards off eBay. There's always a chance with vintage if they look really nice that they're altered. Most cards, even though there are, some altered cards in the hobby, most of them are still not altered. And I don't see anything on this card that leads me to believe it's altered, but just a disclaimer out there for those of you who are thinking of buying vintage on eBay that it is something that you could run into. I did measure this card, and it's the exact right measurement, and it doesn't look to have any evidence of trimming or anything, so yeah, we'll see how I do. Following that, I've got same set, 1959 Topps Ken Boyer. I'm a Cardinals fan, as you see with the hat, as I've said in other videos. So this card I bought the same lot with the Richie Ashburn. It's not perfectly centered, but much better centered. I think this is going to get a 7. Outside chance an 8, but I think a 7. Again, I don't think that it's been, altered in any way, but whenever you have really sharp vintage, it's always a worry. Definitely really close to miscut on the back here too, but nonetheless, gorgeous card. Following that up, I have a football card, 1960 Topps Yale Larry, Hall of Fame defensive back for the Detroit Lions. This card I got for like $4 at auction. It was really cheap. Has some surface issues. You can actually kind of see one right there. It's like a little line, almost like a little divot line. I don't really have big expectations for this. About a 5. I think otherwise it would get a 6 with an outside chance at a 7. A little wear up on that corner, but really, pretty well centered. Nice looking card. Not too much wear, a little bit on the back, but really cheap just for my PC, right? Another vintage football here, 1961 Topps. This card was listed as EX online. I thought that it looked better in the photo. I bought it. I still think it's better. Absolutely no surface issues. I think it's a 6 to 7, not a 5 as it was listed. It's definitely off center top to bottom. Left to right's good. And it has some inking on the, all around the card and on the border. You can see there. But as I talked about in another video, PSA doesn't really take off much for that. So I think that this card, a little wear on the back, but I think that it's going to, grade pretty well. I think it's going to grade about a 6. That's my prediction for it. And this is, again, not an expensive card. Vintage football and vintage basketball are really cheap. Really undervalued, honestly. A card like this, I just think it looks good. It was really cheap. I bought it for $2. I added it to another order, right? So I didn't have to pay shipping, so $2. And it's a Hall of Fame center. I just think the card looks great, and it's a good card for a PC. So going on, I talked about these in another video. I have a complete set of 1969 Topps football. And here is a Brian Piccolo rookie. This card, I already have others graded of. I actually have 3 copies of this card. This one has pretty elevated wear. You can see that corner is pretty worn. This top right corner is really worn, and that edge has got some pretty substantial wear as well. Really off center, left to right. I mean, there's barely any border left there. So the reason why I'm grading this card is because it's one of the most valuable cards in the set. And even in like a 4, it's worth about $45. So my thought process here is that I could grade this card, sell it off, and use that money, to pay not only maybe for part of this order, but otherwise for other cards for my collection, right? So, same set, I've got a 1969 Topps Ray Nitschke, Hall of Fame linebacker for the Packers. So one of my goals for that set, because I have a complete set, is to get a graded set of all the Hall of Famers. And I've already have 39 cards off at PSA right now, most of them Hall of Famers. I have a few already graded, but there's still about a dozen left that I have yet to get graded. Some of which I don't have really gradable copies of, but I still have gradable, at least, sharp enough copies of about 6 of them, 6 or 7 that I'm going to send off, and then I'll look to, buy the others on eBay. They're really not worth much of anything. Honestly, it would probably be better for me to just purchase these off eBay, already graded 7s, 8s, but you know, I have the cards, why not? So Hall of Fame linebacker Ray Nitschke. Following that theme, Hall of Fame wide receiver Bullet Bob Hayes for the Cowboys. Really off-center card, but also, again, sharp. All these cards are very sharp. You can see barely any border left there between his shoulder and the end of the card. So another one, Jackie Smith, Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Cardinals. Again, really off-center, but really sharp card. Same theme. This one's better centered. Hall of Fame defensive back Larry Wilson. It is closer to the left side than the right side, but it looks pretty good, especially because it's well centered top to bottom. Yeah, same theme. Dave Wilcox, Hall of Fame linebacker, really off-centered right to left, but pretty well centered top to bottom. Good-looking card. And Hall of Fame defensive tackle Merlin Olsen. I actually have another one of these already off at PSA, and it is in just about the exact same shape. This card, I expect to grade about an 8, and honestly, in an 8, it's only worth about $15, so not much. You know, it's not exactly like I'm going to be making any profit. Not that I'm going to sell these cards, but not that I would make any profit if I were to grade and sell it. My thought process here is really just, if you have a vintage card of a Hall of Famer, 1969, that's, you know, an 8 quality card, just get it graded anyway. It's worth getting graded. It's worth getting encapsulated and protected. So, I'm going to send that off. Then, here's a Bart Starr from the same set, Series 2, so it has the white border. This card, you know, I already have another one. It's off at PSA. It's honestly in better shape, so I'm planning to probably move this card. Same thought with the Piccolo. You can see here, this is kind of an interesting test for me as well. You can see that there's color missing on the edge on the left here and along the bottom. Pretty bad edge chipping. And I'm not sure if that counts as paper loss. I don't think it counts as paper loss. I think it just counts as, you know, edge chipping. But it'll be a nice, interesting test for me to see how PSA treats that. I'm expecting this card to get about a 4, you know, outside chance at a 3 because of that. Otherwise, it's not too bad. But either way, you know, in a 4, it's worth about $35-40, so still worth getting graded. Another interesting thing here is that with age, you've actually come to be able to see the cartoon on the back of the card, even though it hasn't been rubbed away. You can see here it's a little cartoon character throwing 3 footballs, and it says, Bart was the NFL's leading passer in 1962, 64, and 66. So, kind of cool. And the last card from that set, a 1969 Topps Willie Wood, defensive back, Hall of Famer, I think went to USC. Pretty well centered, has a few print dots, a little edge issue, I think up here, but pretty clean copy, again following the same theme. What's actually kind of cool about this is that in contrast with the other cards from the set, which have, you know, the stats and info of the players, there are a few cards in that set, and one of them being a Hall of Famer, Willie Wood, that, you know, they don't have any information on the back of the cards, and they actually combine to make a big photo of Fran Tarkenton. I've done that before. It's kind of cool. I think I have a photo of it on my phone, but anyway, yeah, send this off to get the same, you know, Hall of Fame set completed. So switching gears to baseball now. This is a 1970 Topps Carl Yastrzemski. This is a card from my dad's collection from his childhood, actually. It has a print dot on Carl's face, that little blue dot next to his nose, but that's actually a really common print error for this card in this set, so they won't take off any points for that. I've seen PSA 9s with it. Pretty sharp, really, really well centered. That's what drew me to the card. And the register, you know, the focus of this picture is excellent, where a lot of cards in this set are out of focus, so that's what drew me to it, the centering and the focus. Now, it does have little bits of wear, and especially this bottom right corner. You can see that, you can definitely see the wear on it. It's not bad, but still the wear is visible. So I predict this will get a 6. At least that's my expectation for it. I'm hoping for a 7, but I think it's going to get a 6 because of this bottom right corner. Then I purchased this online. There was a seller who uploaded a bunch of 1970 Topps that were all really sharp. And I went through the lot, you know, some of them are I'm still considering purchasing, but they're off-centered. I really went for the ones that were really well-centered. And there were 3 in particular that were like that, and luckily enough for me, 2 were Cardinals. So here's one of them, the Steve Carlton. And I actually already own this card, but mine is pretty worn. This one is really sharp. I mean, it is excellent. Centering is gorgeous. Corners are sharp. Everything about this card is excellent. You know, maybe the slightest bit of cut wear on the back on the right edge. I think this is going to get an 8. You know, I think that this is definitely a stunning card. This is going to be a PC card for sure. Following that theme, 1970 Topps Willie McCovey. A little more wear, you can see a little white dot on that corner, same down there, but not perfectly centered, a little off left to right, but really still a pretty darn well-centered card. Looks great, really, really good focus, really sharp, and I'm predicting about a 7 on this one. Then, Lou Brock. 1970 Topps Lou Brock, centering, again, excellent on this card. Touch of wear on the corners, still really sharp. This one, I don't really know what to expect because, you know, you can see kind of there's like a dark shaded line here. It's almost like a surface, you know, irregularity. I don't think, you can almost see it there. It's almost like a wrinkle, but I don't think it's a wrinkle. It just doesn't seem like it's a wrinkle. I've run my finger over it. You know, it doesn't have the same kind of feel as a wrinkle, and it's really, really slight. So I'm not sure how PSA will treat that. They might treat it as a wrinkle, in which case this is going to come back a 4. But otherwise, I think it's about a 6 to 7, and I'm really hoping that, you know, these cards, these old vintage cards have lumps and bumps in the surfaces. They're not always perfectly, you know, nice and flat, just like a modern card is. So, you know, a little irregularity like that might just be treated as a surface bump, which a lot of these cards have. 1970 Topps batting leaders. I have, I think, 3 of these, and this card's, again, actually from my dad's collection. So this card has Pete Rose, Roberto Clemente, and Cleon Jones. So, you know, 2 all-time greats and a very good player. This isn't perfectly centered. It's well-centered left to right. There's a little bit of wear on the corners, right? You can see it's not perfect, but it's a nice example of this card. And this is a card that in a 5 goes for about $50. So honestly, I picked out the best copy that I have. I'm not planning to move it particularly. I will probably keep it because I like to keep my cards. But this is, you know, I figured at that valuation, you know, and especially with the card as clean as it is, it's worth getting graded. Then again, from my father's collection, same deal, 1969 National League ERA leaders from 70 Topps. This card is unbelievably sharp. You know, it's got a touch of the tiniest bit of wear, but it is almost 50-50 centered. It is stunning. Register is fantastic. Colors are great. It's got 3 Hall of Famers on it, including 2 Cardinals. So, I mean, no-brainer, right? It's only about $35 or $40 and an 8, but that's my expectation of it. I think it's going to get an 8. And then the 20th and final card, switching gears here to a basketball card. So this is a basketball card I got in a lot with other basketball cards, but this one, being from 71, it falls under vintage. So this is a 1971 Topps Wes Unseld. It has a little print line on his face there, which is actually common for the issue, just like the blue print dot on the Yastrzemski card. So, you know, I don't expect them to actually take much of anything away from that because I've seen 9s with that print line. Otherwise, it's well-centered, not perfect, a little off left to right. Top to bottom looks good. Corners have, you know, touches of wear, but overall very sharp card. Especially, you know, some of these corners look excellent. Card looks great. You know, Hall of Famer. He was the, I think, 1978 Finals MVP for the Bullets. So, just a, you know, cool PC card. I think, like I've said, vintage basketball is really undervalued, same as vintage football. I didn't really have any, so I decided to, you know, purchase one, and here it is. So, that's it. We'll see how these cards do. I guess we'll see in, again, like I always say, 10 months or so, whatever. And I guess I'll see the submission video when they get back. Thanks.